Hi guys. How are you guys doing? Okay. Let's see. Everything sound good? Mixer sound good? Let me see. I might need to turn this up a little bit more. Am I a bit quiet to you guys? I believe I'm a bit quiet on my end, but we can fix that. Just have to I always play with audio settings and stuff. How does that sound? Okay, cool. Perfect. All right. So, this is the first stream in a while. I've been taking I've only been doing like one stream a week because well, previously it was because of school, but I am now graduated. Don't have to worry about that anymore, thank God. And then now I just finished our Mark Fisher video. Little low. I'll just turn up the gain just a little bit. How's that? I think that's much better. All right. Okay, so yeah, we're finally done with the Mark Fisher video that came out. I'm very happy with it. But whenever I get into this like creative fervor or fever thing, I can't take the time to I focus just on that. So, but yeah, I'm glad to be back. Glad to be talking with you guys. I think our video's doing pretty well as we speak. I think it's got I don't know. I think we're about 4K views, and that's pretty good. I think. I don't know. Might just be me, but yeah, I really like Mark Fisher a lot. If you couldn't tell, I even have a mug says Hauntology video cassette, and that's from Acid Horizon, the podcast. It's from they created like a clothing line and merchandise line called Crit Drip, and it's like philosophy geared and orientated stuff. It's really really cool. But what are you guys up to? Enough about me, Muggerfugger. It's a good name. I like it. Colin, how's it going, friend? Kate, hello. Schno, hello. Yeah, I also yeah, man. I mean, it's I noticed a lot. So I've actually talked to a few, and this isn't a total surprise. A few analytical people, um, analytical philosophers, and they really don't like Mark Fisher. Surprise, surprise. I find I don't find this with continental philosophers regarding analytical philosophy. There's obviously in many ways there's a sort of okay, yeah, you guys are a little bit too like rigid in your approach from a continental perspective. They're like, look, you're way too rigid. These sort of rules of engagement that you put on your work doesn't always work the way you want it to, and that's a critique that even I would have around analytical philosophy. I think that's quite correct, but nonetheless, there's usually not a lot of antagonism, right? At least in my experience. Most continental philosophers actually like a lot of analytical philosophy. They at least see that it's very important from a base perspective and orientating yourself in the world and orientating yourself within certain philosophical frameworks. I think at least knowing a base level of logical fallacies is really helpful. There's nothing worse than people who just completely uh, just use fallacious reasoning all the time, right? Nonetheless, though, continental philosophers or analytical philosophers are they're just fucking assholes sometimes. Like unbelievable assholes. Like really unbelievable assholes and like pretentious as absolute fuck. And actually like an undeserved pretentiousness some of the time. It's always like and you know what's funny is a lot of the time when you have people who come from a sort of positivist perspective, or logical positivists are kind of, I think they're kind of gone now, a little bit. Um, but nonetheless, there's sort of that academic aura today that maybe in Mark Fisher terms, there's a ghost that still haunts sort of analytical philosophy in that regard. And the ghost is being a complete fucking dickhead and just absolutely throwing anything out that comes outside the whims of analytical philosophy. That's got to be the minority, though. Most analytical philosophers are probably not like that. I fucking hope to God. All right. God knows all the dickhead analytical philosophers are all on r/philosophy subreddit. That is for sure. Howard Sean. It's 2 a.m. here. Oh man. Yeah, it is 2 p.m. in middle America. Terrible time to stream. Terrible, absolutely horrendous time to stream for a lot of people. But I do it anyways. I think the best time to stream is, like, there's statistics on this. I've looked up. It's somewhere like, at least Central Time, it's like 5 or 6 p.m. Central Time, and then go from there. Which is really interesting. Well, not really. It's actually not. It makes perfect sense. Would you guys like to turn on some music? There is some really cool fucking cover art on here. I don't know. It's cool. Let's. All right. It's 10 p.m. here? All right. Well, that's perfect. That is sort of like a perfect time, right? Managed to catch a stream in time? Well, I'm glad to have you here, friend. Definitely happy to have you here. It's always weird, trying to find a good time to stream and all that fun stuff. All right. It's good for me since I get to listen. Yeah, I noticed there's a lot of people who do that. That's sick. That's so cool. I love that. Man, I hope that is the greatest things. Like, listen, I listen to your streams or I watch them while I'm working. That is the coolest shit ever. That is the best thing that I can think of. Oh my god, I have a huge influx of subscribers. Holy shit. Oh my god. Whoa, what's that from? What's going on? Do you guys see that? I didn't. Okay. Ooh. I usually have the sub thing on because I don't get subs like that, but that's cool. All right. Oh, Briar. How's it going, dude? Good to have you in here as always. I got a fun question for you. What do you think of the idea of a borderless world? No, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, just on a purely theoretical level, yeah, hell yeah. Like, I think borders, in some ways, are a very primitive sort of idea. I think no, that is at the end of the day, that is sort of a harder question to that is kind of a tough question. Because at least, if you're going to approach this from a pluralistic lens, right? Like, if I'm sympathetic to people who are interested in sort of like autonomy or a national autonomy, but then at the same time, I'm kind of not sympathetic to that, right? I really don't like nationalism on any degree. Like, I really don't. So there's, of course, totally different types of nationalism across the spectrum, right? There's very horrid, very right-wing, very racist nationalism. there is left-wing nationalism, but I don't get on with left-wing nationalism to almost any degree. It's certainly better than very far-right nationalism, but I think nationalism in almost any context sort of just it escapes the frame, and that frame being sort of just, maybe I'm a collectivist in this regard, a sort of unified body of human beings, right? I think it's good to break down those barriers whenever you can, right? To just sort of take away those little small things one at a time. I imagine this would have to be a slow process. People love their traditions, but take away some of those small little things that sort of separate us, right? We can have an individual identity, we can be individuals. Nonetheless, I think looking at ourselves purely beyond a human being tends to get muddy at that point. So yeah, I suppose on a theoretical level, yeah, a borderless world would be great. I think if we could do that, I was going to say, it was like, for nationalism, people who want a sort of autonomous state, they don't want to be controlled by X government. When you think of a borderless world, you think of like a single unified world government, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. It certainly would not be the case in the beginning if something like that happened. Man, we're so tied to the idea of nation states. Dude, I literally can't see a world within the next 500 years, even 500 years, that would ever do that. What about Pan-Africanism? Well, so perhaps I'm not too educated on Pan-Africanism, but I think that's sort of a good definition of like sort of left-wing sort of ethno-nationalism, right? So nationalism based on ethnic lines, but sort of in a sort of anti-colonial perspective, and anti-colonialism's good. I think that I think what happens though is I don't like gauging almost any policy on the whims of like race in any way, even if it's something like, so here's an example too of this. Okay, so like, am I in favor of what is it? Bernie Sanders has gotten flack because he's not in favor of them. It starts with an R, not reparations, right? I'm in favor of reparations, I suppose. Right? So like, if you're gonna say, hey, we need reparations, if that could mean a lot of different things. Let's say reparations give $2,000 to every African American in the country, and of course it's going to be very hard. There's going to be a line, right? You're going to have to like, oh, you have to have like 60% like African American. You got to take this DNA test and shit, whatever. I don't know if that's actually a thing, but nonetheless, like, am I in favor of giving these people $2,000? Yeah, only on the whims that $2,000 is just going to help them. And I would like to think that theoretically, it would be good to do that for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. But like, am I in favor of the logic of sort of reparations, sort of like a sort of policy-driven welfare goal for a specific race? I'm really not. I don't think the logic there is sound, but nonetheless, like, if the result is that, these people, working class people get some money in their pocket, even not working class people, I don't care. Yeah, that's cool, I guess. I'd be in favor of reparations in that regard, but I understand the explicit logic and being that, like, look, the best way to maybe deal with sort of systemic issues that affect namely people of color isn't necessarily like reparations, right? But it's trying to build up these communities, and building up these communities on the basis of past pure racial lines, perhaps. It's not good enough to look at things in a pure identity like perspective, right? So it's the same thing, I think. I think, again, it creates a sort of artificial barrier to things. And I'm not going to lie, like, that is an artificial thing. I don't mean artificial in a purely negative thing per se, but it is something pretty socially constructed. Yeah. All right. Read Harvey's book on cosmopolitanism. I have not done that. I should. There's only so many books I can read in so much little time. Potential loss of identity and culture. Breyer, Buchalter. So in a way, it's not to say that we should give up culture. It's not that we should give up sort of tradition and culture. It's just that we should create new culture and create new identity as we speak. And theoretically, if we do create new identity, it should... Oh, sorry, excuse me. It should be identity beyond the bounds of what we realize identity today as something stagnantly separate from everything else. I really think that... I find the individual versus collectivist mentality a very big false dichotomy. In many ways, it's that you can't recognize the individual without the collective. So it's really a stupid, dumb, I want to say almost liberal false dichotomy. And I'm very careful how I use liberal on the internet because everyone just means liberal is just shit that's bad. That's not the case. No, quite literally, like enlightenment thought. I think this is something that it's the categorization of categories, right? It's individual, collective. It's a false dichotomy that I think isn't necessarily true. We need a collective to recognize the individual. And in many ways, we need the individual, how we look at ourselves, our autonomy. I still think that's a thing in order to understand our place in a collective. Do you have an opinion on UBI versus federal jobs guarantee? So, all right. Great question. Great question. Okay, I'll get to that. Canned pork chops, you said yes. Most anti-colonial struggles in the third world had a nationalist tinge to them. Yeah, that's kind of true. I'm not the most well-educated directly on this stuff, but that seems to sort of be the case, and I think that's kind of a mistake. But nonetheless, I'll get back to your question. It's a good question. UBI versus federal jobs guarantee. Okay. So, one, like, it would be nice to theoretically have both, but I'm kind of anti-work, right? I really think the idea of labor and the world around us is kind of shit. And I'm talking, like, labor in general. Okay. All right, let's see how I can break this down. Okay. I think labor is fetishized in almost every ideological context. I'm not even fucking around. Like, just base abstract ways, labor is just a complete fucking fetish. I mean that in a capitalist context. I mean that especially in a Marxist context. There is an absolute fetish of labor. It's that and I think it's sort of like a historical thing at this point, and it's something that's at least universally human, I notice. I think that I'm just pretty anti-work unless, like, exactly the idea of work itself is pretty fucking alienating. And it's not to say that we could ever live in a world without labor of sorts, right? It's just that I think we should try to maximize the amount of time people don't have to do that. And that is not, let me make this fucking clear, for right-wingers and the small amount of really crazy fucking left-wingers, that is not a Marxist thing. It absolutely is not. The Marxist thing is to own your labor and own the sort of consequence of your labor, and that's great. That's wonderful. That's great. But that's definitely not a Marxist tonality to be sort of an anti-work. And I think that's kind of where I go to. So UBI is probably my favored thing, but there's a lot of baggage there, right? So I know there's a lot of people on the left who hate the idea of anti-work, and I think it's kind of psychopathic. It's very ideological. The defense really is it's quite bad. I think meaningful labor is a part of human nature, but that's not what work is. Work is not meaningful labor in almost any way. Like work, like labor to like create a commodified product, that's not that's that's like I know that's what they say, like if you can own at least the very the core essence of your work. In many ways, capitalism for some people, way too few, gets kind of close to that, right? If you own your own business and capitalism and you're whatever, you're closer than an actual worker, right? Than someone who's working for someone who has got a boss. If you're your own boss, you're closer to that. And I still think that we can look at that and say, I'm still making decisions that are affected by artificial sort of market constructs. And those markets don't fundamentally eviscerate in systems that we've seen in the past that try to get away from capitalism, right? Like the Soviet Union, I fucking hate when people say that, like, oh, well, like it wasn't a market system. The Soviet Union absolutely was a market system. It really was. And I suppose in a way, like I'm really sort of against the commodity form in a lot of ways. I think, and it's not to say that like, it's not good enough to just be anti-commodity form, right? It's not good enough to just say, oh, because, it's hard to envision a world outside of commodities. And that's something that we'll have to work towards. It's just that there are very explicit problems with the idea of commodities and the concept of work around it, right? Selling your labor power or creating something for a sort of abstract goal of capital or an abstract goal of a market exchange, right? An exchange for something. I don't care even if it's socialism, there's an exchange going on. So I think, yeah. But yeah, no, certainly the most certainly the thing I think, like creation itself, that's certainly great. Like that is in my mind some of the most that is the most human thing in a lot of ways, in a very good way. I art stuff like that. Um yeah. Oh, got it. Then agree then. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, no. It is true. Like meaningful labor, right? I'd maybe consider in that language art as meaningful labor or creation outside of profit, I suppose. Inflation will destroy USA before anything more serious happens. I'm not sure about that. I know a lot of people say that. I'm skeptical. To be fair, my skepticism may be a bit rooted in ignorance. I'm not the most educated on economics, but I see a lot of I've seen guys, all right, for the past 15 years, there's been right-wing arguments on the downfall of the economy. There's been a lot of explicit left-wing, especially Marxist arguments that the rate of profit's going to fall. This was, guys, I was reading about this shit like 10 years ago, and they were saying within 5 years the United States would be eviscerated, like economically. And it seems like the goalpost just keeps moving, right? Now, I'm not an economist. I'm not very well educated on economics. I've taken like 2 classes in college and haven't done a lot of reading on my own. But that is something that I see. There's sort of look at a certain story that they'll take out a story, like a news article about like rate of profit falling or inflation or whatever, and there will be people who subscribe to a very Marxist tinge of economics. They're like, look, it's starting to happen now. We're starting to see like we're starting to see the rate of profit is going to fall so much where we're starting, the beginning of the end is happening now, and we need socialism to fix it. What I see, it's like it's almost it feels like really it almost feels conspiratorial at times. And to be fair, again, I'm trying to say perhaps this sort of gut feeling that I'm getting about conspiratorial is simply that I'm ignorant on the actual economics. And for the past 10 to 15 years, people have said on every single side of the political spectrum that the United States is going to fail, that the economy is going to crash far more than it ever has, and that people are going to be pretty destitute beyond, and it's just not happened. It's not happened whatsoever. So, yeah, it's just, I'm not convinced. Guys, I'm not convinced that the United States will be totally eviscerated financially and that we'll all be destitute very soon. I'm just not there. and I could be wrong because of that. Because they're moving into virtual money. Well, so isn't money already fiat is virtual, right? Like fiat is like it's been I think money has been virtual since like the 70s. Right? We don't have a gold standard for really anything. Yep, that is the most scary part because there were many false flags and conspiracies. Yeah, it's just yeah, American realism, Ryan. Yeah, I mean it is sort of like that, but um for sure. But I mean I can certainly envision a world without America for sure. And that without I think the United States will be a country for a very like a nation for the longest of times. But we certainly will have more different superpowers. And China will probably be that superpower within the next 15, 20 years. I just see a lot of people say all the time it seems like a religious thing. It's like, look, the economic downfall's happening now, and it's really fucking weird how these patterns exist in people who are very, very far left and very, very far right. And this isn't some enlightened centrism shit for me. This is just what I don't really have a position on this because I'm not very well educated on core economics very well. I know the basics of just about every single economic theory around, Marxism, of fucking modern monetary theory, uh, Keynesian economics, even supply side economics, trickle down economics, essentially. But that's about it, right? It just seems that there's a really, really ideological religious apparatus to the way in which people approach things like economics, and I don't trust it. I don't really trust it all that much. I'm very happy to listen to it. I'm very happy to take it seriously, but I'm very skeptical, to say the least. I find economics to be one of the most rigid ideological sort of frameworks of thought that we have. All right. Econ arguments are only as good as the assumptions built into the models. I mean, I think that's the case, right? I think that's right. Oh, Victor, what's going on, man? I don't know if you saw that in the Discord. I think we're all kind of talking about UFOs in the Discord. No, that's a good question. Sure. So, I haven't actually read a lot of the articles coming out about UFOs, I suppose. I guess my take on UFOs is that, look, I think it's kind of confirmed that there are weird things that governments across the world actually genuinely, or at least portions of the government, have no idea what they are. And they seem to go down a pretty decent checklist. All right, this could be military aircraft. This could be this, and that. And they don't know. And it's not like these people are totally out of the information network. Of course, we do know that there are, especially in the United States, there are portions of the Pentagon, trillions of dollars that go to ghost departments or departments that don't really exist. They do. And the United States funds them. Whether that's probably portions of the CIA. I think, what is it, every year, like trillions or something like billions will go missing or they're unaccounted for from Pentagon funds. And so there's probably experimental technology and aircraft stuff. There is there is evidence to show that the United States made hovercraft like aircraft, things that look like UFOs. I don't think the result was anything that could fly very well, so that's one thing, right? So the United States have experimented with those aircraft, but every known example of that aircraft hasn't been able to fly very well. It's been able to get 50 feet in the air and not fly very well. And so it's there's these weird crafts in the air, and it's what the fuck is it? It doesn't mean that it's necessarily aliens, right? But I think a lot of people who are like overly skeptical. They're like, man, people think there's. I actually think most people are more skeptical than they are accepting of narratives. Most people genuinely are skeptical of shit. I really think so. It doesn't mean there's fucking aliens, but the UFOs and governments are certainly concerned with that idea. That's just for sure. Like, it's not conspiratorial to say that. And if we could probably measure like the probability of something being aliens, I don't think aliens is totally out of the blue. Like, like how fucking, it's not that weird. You know what I mean? It's really not that weird. I really like, and I think that's why I don't really read too much on it. Like, this is really interesting shit. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I've almost already kind of made up my mind. That being, aliens are probably real. Like, extraterrestrial life is probably real. There's been enough weird shit. To say that, look, a lot of weird happenings that even governments are now very concerned with, that they're the idea that these weird happenings come from a life, like intelligent life outside of Earth, like how, like it's not that dumb to think that, like really, it doesn't mean that it is the case. It's just that, okay, it's a decent theory, right? And I'm not totally opposed to it, you know? It's so funny how suddenly this is a legit topic of convo, such a quick shift. Yeah. There's something for sure. Yeah, there's definitely something going on, right? There's shit that even governments are like, okay, there's something going on that's been going on for so long that governments have even been like, what the fuck is going on? You know, even answers from prior administrations, like Obama's been asked, like, okay, aliens, he admitted, he was like, I asked, the first time I was in office, I asked, dude, if I was president, I would do that too. I was like, all right, what the fuck, what is the deal on aliens? And he said, he was like, and they were like, can you tell us? He's like, nope. So it's like, you know, look, there's stuff going on. Doesn't mean that it's aliens in our contemporary form, but it seems like totally plausible. and I kind of get irritated with people who are like, man, it's just like, it's just nonsense. I'm like, oh God, come on. Like, really, you think that's nonsense? You really think it's nonsense that there is sort of life forms outside of Earth that could potentially harness technology to come to Earth and stay fairly hidden? I feel like if you're advanced enough to come to Earth, staying hidden probably isn't too big of a problem, maybe? It'd still be kind of tough, as we can see, maybe. But, yeah, you know, I don't know, though. You can never know for sure. Aliens are definitely Hegelians. I would say the aliens are Deleuzians. Definitely more in line with Deleuze, I think. JP would definitely say they're postmodern neo-Marxists. That's goddamn right. Goddamn, dude. Jordan Peterson's such a fucking idiot. He made a tweet the other day about, like, Israel and Palestine. He's like, now Israel wants to defend themselves and shit. I'm like, shut the fuck. Oh my God. It's just bad. Like, in my mind, like, if you're gonna argue in the Israel-Palestine issue, the worst argument from a very right-wing perspective or a pro-Israel perspective is they're just defending themselves. Like, this is what I mean. Jordan Peterson's actually just, like, he's really not that smart. It's like, Israel, oh, so now we're mad that Israel defends themselves. Like, dude, that is, like, one of the lowest hanging arguments that you could make. Like, you can make so many better arguments in favor of Israel on that situation. Like, you fucking moron. The universe is always expanding. We cannot observe it all. I think that's the idea, man. What do you think the result from the conflict of interest between the US and China? This is a good question. What will be left after the historic dialectic resolves this tension? Well, we do know what is going to happen. It's going to be that China is going to be a superpower. Or they're going to be more powerful than the United States, and they're going to have a lot more leverage on trade. That's for sure. Again, there's a conspiracy theory. This is just conspiracy. Now, I know enough about international politics to know this is just bullshit. Again, people are convinced there will be a war, like an actual, like, very much, like, hot war between China and the US. Man, I'm not convinced. I am so fucking not convinced of that. I think that uh I think well, it's not even I think, it's just like China will, they will be the largest superpower in the world fairly soon. And now what happens from there is actually a little, it's a little like, I think it's good that we're having, there's another, look, maybe I'm a Hegelian in this regard. I'm happy there's going to be another superpower. The United States, as we know, kind of sucks. Hey, does that mean China's going to be great? Fuck to the no. Guys, money on it right now. China's going to suck, and they're going to be a little bit, they're going to be as close to the United States in a lot of ways. It's going to happen. I hate to let down all the very huge like hopeful people that, like, China will bring about communism. Dude, I really don't think that's going to happen, but I guess we can hope. I think it's good that the United States will step down as the most powerful country, but there is, so I have a concern here, and this is a little bit scary, that I think in many ways we may experience a sort of sanctioning that China used to experience. The United States, guys, if that is the case, there is absolutely nothing that would stop China from putting economic sanctions on the US for anything that would actually really affect our day-to-day lives, like we do in other parts of the world, right? Like, the United States does this and really hurts a lot of people. It is not crazy to think that China will do the exact same thing. So that is a big possibility, that there might be technology that we will go without in the United States because of this, and China is just going in. Certainly with new superpowers emerging, there is going to be turbulence, big time. Yeah, I don't. So Carlos, it's hard to say whether China will suck as much. I'm actually, I actually think China probably won't suck as much as the United States in many ways. Like, I think China will certainly be better, with a lot of things, a lot of very good things, and I think that's cool. But I don't think they're going to be some huge benevolent entity around the world, and they're going to advance the goal of world global communism. I really don't think so. I just don't. Sorry, guys. I know I'm a lot of fun at parties. I really don't think that's going to happen, but I suppose we can hope. The United States surely isn't going to do it. We know that. Um, what form do you think the conflict will take, between China and USA as China becomes a superpower? Well, I think that China will. I don't think it's going to be like I think it might be a Cold War like situation, but I don't think nuclear weapons will get involved. I think war that we think of today, or of the past, like world wars, I think, I'm not gonna lie, guys, in many ways I think it's kind of over in some ways. I really do. I don't think it's, I think, I don't know if we'll ever really see anything like that again, or at least it's going to be a very long time. I think the new warfare is going to be a very technological, economic warfare. In many ways it's good. We don't have to kill as many people, so that's cool. The result might be worse. You never know, but imperializing Africa by building infrastructure and forgiving debt. Fucking literally US and... Wait. What the fuck? What are you talking about? Is this someone in chat said that? Imperializing Africa? What are you... I didn't talk about Africa. China is engaging in multi-development. Stop the fall... Wait. Engaging in multilateral development? I don't know if anyone's arguing that there are like good things about investment with China, but you're fucking high. This is, oh, not you. Okay. I think we'd be really stupid to think that there is not going to be an ultimate catch that will actually hurt a lot of these populations. China absolutely is going to want a cut. And it's just it's like multilateral development is still a very international investment. Like we're still in a like this is what I DM like I'm sorry, I don't mean to, I'm not going to shit on you or anything. But this is one of these, multilateral development is still international like investment. It's not outside the whims of capital, right? And thus, if it's not outside the whims of capital, it's not outside of the negative consequences of this. That being, actually have to secure a material investment back, and that investment is going to siphon from people in Africa. This is as imperialism. Well, it doesn't. I think we're letting language get in the way here a little bit too much. Like, it doesn't mean imperialism's one set thing, right? Already have forgiven billions. No, that's great. Like, that's what I'm like. It's not to say that it's not as like it's not a very nuanced thing, right? Um, but nonetheless, nonetheless, I can't say if it's imperialism. I will say that. I just don't. I don't really care whether it qualifies as imperialism or not. I suppose I don't really, I don't care if it's CIA talking points. I don't think that's a very good argument to base sort of a logic on like titles like that. But yeah, I'm sure All right. China didn't mess up with Middle East. That is true. That is very true, and that's good. Very, very true. And I hope we can get the fuck out of the Middle East very soon. Second cassette tape. We are going. Interesting. So Greg, I want to read that real quick. Let me get this in here. So, I heard Zizek say he spoke to a group in China, and they say their biggest advantage is know who will be a power in 4 years. Democracy and capital are becoming more and more divorced, even in the U.S. Yeah, I'm a little bit confused. So, what's that mean, perhaps? We don't really need a war with them as long as they don't interrupt our flow of capital. Yeah, okay. No, that's right. I think that's why, in a lot of ways. Okay. This argument goes both ways. Okay. So this is why I don't equate China and the United States as completely economically separate. And this goes both ways, right? A lot of people shit on China in the United States, especially a lot of right-wingers and left-wingers will shit on China. Oh, look at what they're doing to our economy. Guys, our certain existence that we have today, and perhaps this existence in some ways isn't desirable, and that's fine, but it couldn't exist without China. That said, China could not exist without the United States. So we also see a very ideological argument in favor of China that they're this is one of the funniest arguments I hear. The United States is the only force, China is the only force that keeps the United States at bay. I'm like, okay, that is so wrong. It's not even funny. China facilitates the United States. We invest internationally in China all the fucking time, and China is more than happy. We exploit their workers. China allows us to exploit our own workers. There is no... This is maybe a Fukuyama point. Ideology on the guise of global capitalism is dead. Right? Ideology isn't dead, right? Fukuyama, he's wrong on that. But nonetheless, on a global capitalism, the ideological sort of mechanisms that may drive economics kind of is dead. Like, capital is the ultimate ideology. Ideology now. Like, when the Berlin Wall fell, that so much is true, right? It's not true. China absolutely is doing nothing to combat the United States in an economic sense, right? Not at all. I mean, and I think that's why, like, it's stupid for right-wingers to point out China. They're like, oh, it's an economic war. No, it's not really an economic war. It's that China's just developing faster than us. They're smarter. They have a more centrally planned economy. It's much more efficient. They're doing better things, and they're beating the United States. But China does not, in a lot of ways, base their entire economic system on the downfall of the United States at all. If anything, I think China, there's some problems that would happen in the meantime if the United States went to shit, you know? Depends on how we define capitalism. The system around capital. It can be as broad. Capitalism is an incredibly broad thing, right? China, this is why, guys, like, it's a stupid thing to get caught on. It's a really dumb thing to get caught on, but it's really, really mind-boggling to me that China would not ever be considered a capitalist country. Like, that is really, really odd. Very, very odd. Especially, like, in the realm of, like, social democracy, right? Social democracy are very clear market-orientated countries. So is China. And social democracy is definitely capitalism, but China is capitalism too. It's a different form of capitalism. But it's really odd that we would categorize China outside of that. It really is, and it seems to be an incredibly ideological coping thing. It doesn't mean China does capitalism better than anyone. Let's be real. That is very true. Right now, China is mastering capitalism, and they're mastering capitalism in the sense that they're starting to really remold it away from capitalism, if that makes sense. They're capitalist in the sense that they've remolded the entire thing, sort of going away from traditional capitalism. There's new stuff going on, but I still think that exists within the framework of capitalism. Do you have any thoughts on capitalism schizophrenia? Well, sort of like the Deleuzian approach. Do you think markets couldn't exist in any capacity for an economic system to be capitalist? Sure, definitely. But but this is where we get into really weird territory. So here, even here, it depends on what definition you want to take on this, right? If you want to take Marx and Engels' definition on socialism, even Lenin's definition on socialism, the USSR wasn't socialist. Even Lenin said this. There were some speeches Lenin gave at sort of the beginning of the USSR. He said, don't essentially call the USSR, we are in the transition to socialism. He said, we overstepped our bounds. We thought that we thought we'd be able to transition from capitalism to socialism. Thus, socialism would be the transition to communism. But he was like, okay, we kind of overstepped that. It's actually, we're now in the transition to socialism. So I think there is a lot of merit to say that socialism's never been practiced because it needs to be a very international thing. We've never seen an international socialism. It's really, I don't want to get caught up on definitions here. It's that, look, if we want to categorize capitalism as a system that works within a sort of capital, I don't think markets have to necessitate capital, though, per se. I don't think, like, I think a market at the most rudimentary, like, definition is just exchange. And that exchange could be trade, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you have to exchange it for abstract capital or money, right? So, theoretically, I would say maybe the best definition that I think I can get behind that's as broad is that capitalism seems to be a system that works within capital. Again, I don't like getting into semantics, linguistics in that regard, but it seems that that's a pretty good definition, I think. And China certainly would fall under that. It's certainly a different type of capitalism, to say the least. But, all I know is China hasn't given up on having a vision of the future. Yeah, I think that's true. I still want to read Xi Jinping's book. I think he's got 2 books. There's so many, there's so many texts I need to read, especially for this channel. I can never find the time to read something like that because it'd be very tough to make a video. It would be very, very tough to make a video on Xi Jinping's book in a lot of ways. Now, without it getting very ideological very fast, if I ever made a book, or if I ever made a video on his book around sort of, his goal in the future, listen, I'm not gonna lie, guys, I don't want to see a bunch of very ideological, like, hardcore rabble in my comment section being like, glory to the people of China. Like, I'm not doing that. That is so not my interest. That is the last thing I want to advance as my channel grows. But I definitely I'm very interested in reading his book. I really would like to see. Yeah, it seems that China still very much has a very soft heart, or a soft core, towards a more unified economic system. One where just like at the basic level, we can get away from the more commodified stuff. So yeah, like that's why I say, like, again, I'm a little bit of a Hegelian. It's time in a lot of ways, right? I think that it's good that China is... there's probably going to be more benefits that China is going to become a global superpower over the United States. Really, truly. It doesn't mean that that's not going to come with a lot of rough spots, especially for people in the United States. If we ever have, like, sanctions or anything like that, we are going to suffer. We are going to suffer the fate that we have imposed on a lot of other people. I think that's a huge possibility, but we will see. Because China does have a future. Yeah, dude, people have been saying China's bubble's going to burst for the longest fucking time. This is, again, guys, this is why I'm very skeptical over things of economics in general. I'm starting to think modern monetary theory. So I was really interested in seeing some arguments against modern monetary theory, and it doesn't seem as strong as MMT itself. It seems like MMT seems to be a little bit more accurate. I'd say I'm very careful with economics. I really, truly, it is one of the things that I'm not very confident talking about. So please correct me. But I'm very skeptical on the very rigid approaches to economics. And MMT doesn't seem to be a rigid approach. Right? Yeah, dude, yeah, I remember being told China's housing bubble. Yeah, dude, it seems almost astrology-like at times, and not to say that it's that it isn't more scientific than astrology. It certainly is. It's more useful than astrology in a lot of ways. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that economics is not very, very useful in a lot of ways. It's just that we are off the mark more often, I think, than we are in some ways, especially on a very micro level. On a macro level, I don't know. Data on U.S.-China trade wars. Most economists agree it hit the U.S. harder. Yeah, there are already impact from... Yeah, totally. Like, that seems to make perfect sense to me. I know internationalism is important for communists, but I would like to see U.S. suffer its own remedy. Sorry. Yeah, dude, there's a lot of very good, innocent people who live in the United States who I can't... Dude, I live in the United States. I don't go for the suffering of anybody. I get that you want to see the United States suffer, but the United States isn't like an abstract thing. It's a country made up of a lot of different types of people. And I don't want to see anyone suffer. What's happening with the Muslim Uyghurs camps in China? Oh my God. This is one of the worst. Okay. I want to move away from this. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean it for real. Okay, gotcha. No. All right, jokes are allowed. Jokes are allowed. Sorry, I read it literally. Gotcha, man. Okay, I'm gonna keep this short. I do not want to be stuck on this topic. It seems as if... All right, I've said this... I think I've said this once before. I've had some discussions in our Discord. you guys want to join our Discord, give some advertising, it helps keep this channel alive. The $6 tier on Patreon, you guys can join, come hang out, talk with me. It's fun. Anyways, all right. This is my take. Look, there seems to be weird shit happening in China around the Uyghur situation. And in that area, there's some data to support that, like, birthing rates for Uyghur populations are very, very low. There's a lot of very legitimate claims from people who have been in what they would call camps or around camps. The details of these camps are pretty vague. We don't exactly know. There's been enough accounts to say that it's probably not all fabricated. There's probably some fabricated accounts. And there's weird shit going on there. What that weird shit exactly is, we don't know. We shouldn't pretend that we know. And will the West capitalize on that? Will the West essentially, or will there be NGOs or very ideological, like, groups, think tanks, whatever, try to capitalize, try to fabricate what's going on in China? Fuck yeah. And that absolutely has happened. There's plenty of articles to show that. I've read a couple from places that there's a lot of fabricated data, and that a lot of this research has been done under very, very sketchy, non-scientific ways. Nonetheless, there's probably weird shit going on, and that's not good. And that's it. That's all that we can really say. It's pretty clear that bad shit's going on, though. I want to make that fucking clear. Anyone who says that it's all Western propaganda, that is very that seems very, very short-sighted, and it seems very, very, I'm not gonna lie, sorry guys, pretty fucking stupid. But yes, there is a lot of Western fabrication, as always. An information war, if you will. And that's true too. So, I think that is, I wish that was the take everyone had. I think I'm correct there. I've thought about it a lot. I almost don't wish to go further on it, because it turns into, again, a really stupidly ideological thing, and you don't actually do anything there, right? You don't really, you end up alienating in this discussion rather than actually, like, expanding subjectivity, learning. It seems like discussions like this get in the way of actual education, if that makes sense, right? So, yeah. And that isn't, and also too, I've seen people with similar takes, like actually a lot of left-wingers. I think, guys, what I said is probably, like, out of most people on the left, I think that's their take. It's like, look, there's probably weird shit going on. Do we know what it is exactly? Not necessarily. There's some really bad indications that shit really sucks and it's really bad. And then there's Western powers are going to capitalize off of that. I think that's sort of the mainstream take, even though people don't say it much. I've heard a couple people say this, and I've heard people call that enlightened centrism, and I think that's the most stupid thing ever. I think if your mapping of centrism is a sort of descriptive and intrinsic take on a geopolitical situation, your definition of centrism is really fucking dumb, but okay. Yeah, put it this way, has there ever been a situation? Yeah, probably not. What I am more comfortable talking about, again, we have more information here. This is more cut and dry. I will be totally fair. There's nowhere near as much information on the Uyghur situation than in this. But one of the things that really irked me is that North Korea is some, like, wonderful fucking place to be. That there also isn't very heinous shit going on in North Korea. This is another thing that I see that I really think is irritating, because it's so stupidly ideological and it's wrong. And they will take this perspective that North Korea is actually a pretty good place to be. It's a desirable place to be. That the government of North Korea is a very good entity, and that they are actually not really complicit in bad stuff, right? Killing, executing people, stuff like that. And they come to these conclusions based on the fact, and this is a fact, this is very real, that Western countries fabricate information. Intelligence agencies will essentially contact defectors, and they will tell them to make up a story about how they escaped North Korea, to dramatize it. This is all true. Totally true. But the fact, this is what I'm talking about. Listen, we were shitting on analytical philosophy in the beginning. The fact that people can jump to the conclusion that just because Western powers fabricate stories for their own benefit, that actually, on the flip side, it means that whoever's oppositional to what's going on is good by default. That is so fucking stupid. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so stupid. And that is so indicative, so monumentally indicative of people who have absolutely zero fucking... maybe I can't say zero. Maybe I can say perhaps ideology is an insanely big drug. Because I would like to say logical fallacies are kind of common sense in academia. Like if you fucking, I think, I don't know. Unless you're a STEM major. If you're a fucking STEM major, you don't know shit about half that stuff anyways. Unless you go outside of STEM, which, to be fair, there's a lot of really cool people who do that. But I would say like 80% of STEM students don't ever touch anything in the humanities. Nonetheless, I've gotten really... There was a PSL did a documentary. It was like a mini doc talking about how intelligence agencies have really fabricated a lot of what goes on in North Korea, and that's good. Like those things should absolutely be talked about and pointed out, and it's pretty fucking heinous shit that the United States talk about the heinous shit that the U.S. has done to North Korea. Right? North Korea is like, oh my god, they suffer. I can't think of another geopolitical entity that's suffered almost more from Western powers. North Korea is very much a victim in many ways. Their people and even their government. Nonetheless, there's guys, it is so clear they shoot people who try to flee from the border. And now I'm not gonna lie, I think it's a little fucked up. It's a little fucked up. That I don't care what you did. I don't even care if you killed people or you did something really wrong. It's a little fucked up that someone's fleeing the border of North Korea and that the policy is to fucking shoot to kill them. Guys, this has been recorded. There's so many accounts of this. There's so many. There is in no fucking world, it is a pure conspiracy theory to think you have to prove that every single account of horrid conditions of North Korea, or of the state of North Korea doing terrible things, publicly executing people, which has been, so many people have said this. You have to prove that U.S. intelligence agencies are behind that. Like, if you're going to say that oh look, the United States has fabricated this, correctly so. They've fabricated prior cases, thus all other cases must be fabricated. It's like that is like such fallacious reasoning. It's not even funny. So I don't know, stuff like that really irritates me. These are nuanced things. These are very nuanced things, and it's not simple. Brendan, LOL, the PSL are fucking clowns. I don't want to say PSL. PSL does. I don't think PSL are clowns. I think that in some ways, I wish they wouldn't be as. I wish that when they take the approach of pointing out, when they point out that Western powers have really hurt North Korea, they wouldn't go to the position of immediately defending the North Korean state. I think they're a little bit uncritical. But I don't think PSL is some terrible like organization. I don't think they're the best. I think they're a very ideological organization right? They're not. I think they're pretty concerned around sort of abstract ideals rather than they are of like ma- material outcomes. Sorry, I don't want to get beheaded for saying that, but it seems that a lot of organizations there's behind it. There's a very ideal that they want to that they seem a little bit more tied to, but I don't know. I don't think I don't think people in PSL are clowns. I think PSL I think that they're I don't have any problems with them. But I do think that in a lot of ways they're very uncritical about some stuff, and especially the North Korea situation. Hey, so I have a question. Could we think of capitalist realism as a sort of either traumatic event or as a trauma response? Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, yes, definitely. I think Fisher kind of hints at that a little bit too. That this capitalist realism, in a way, um is that it's almost a crushing of hope, right? And this is the function of ideology, right? Even Zizek will say this as well. That if anything today, ideology functions as a cynical way of like crushing any idea of emancipation past itself. And in that sense, capitalist realism comes from the trauma that the future and that we can't envision a future past capital. And that's kind of a traumatic thing. So absolutely. For sure. North Korea will be the only country to outlive the climate disaster. Yeah, I mean, there's a few, dude. I don't. It doesn't even bother me that there is some of these people. It is crazy. I think most people can sift past that shit, and that's why I do. I look, guys. This is why people get really irritated with quote unquote tankies. The problem is when you get irritated with quote unquote tankies, you're not really getting at anything by calling them tankies. You're not getting at anything by being antagonistic to them by definition. That's not the goal. It's not that these people don't have serious concerns that are very similar to yours. It's that in a lot of ways there's a lot of ideological baggage they can't siphon through, and if you want to help them siphon through it, potentially, I want to avoid saying help them as if we are in some larger, like that's the other problem too. It's like, what? We're not in some like, we're not like, what? Do we know? Like, are we some like enlightened group of fucking people? No, not really. They're human beings who have anxieties and concerns just like us. Um, there are different ways and there are different languages. There's different ways in which they approach them. There are different sort of political beliefs. The goal our I think our traditional Western notion is to be antagonistic and debate. And that's not the goal. It's not the goal. I don't think that works really. I don't talk about I don't use the terminology tanky. I think it's a terrible idea. Um, it's kind of degrading. I don't like using degrading language. Oh God, my guys, you guys still hear me? My camera got shut off. Hold on. Let me. Oh shit. So I don't know if you guys have. Okay. I don't know if you guys have dealt with cameras. My camera got too hot. Sorry. Sorry about that. Um, what counts as ideology in your opinion? I think in many ways. Now the function of ideology is very broad. I think ideology just it's a set standard of belief under a hierarchical sort of linguistic totalizing language and system. It is and ideology, I think, if anything, it is a setting of boundaries around certain beliefs. I think that's probably the best core definition of ideology. It's a setting of boundaries, if that makes sense. I think that it's kind of hard to define it exactly, but I think the NK crowd is more of a posting style than actual political philosophy. Yeah, DM. I think that no, that's right for sure. That's definitely right. And of course that's a problem. And of course there's a lot of people who see this and they just get totally fucking irritated with it. And I understand the irritation, but we deal with it in the wrong ways. We certainly deal with it the wrong ways. It's not good enough to call fucking people tankies. It's not good enough to one of the things too is shame politics that I don't like. The idea that we can't have these people in our leftist movement. First off, you don't have a leftist movement. That doesn't exist. You're a person. You're a person enveloped into a world of relations, processes. You don't have a movement. Shut up. These movements are actually nothing other than they're nothing outside of just how everything operates anyways. And in my mind, the creation of a language around like, our leftist movement, that's very ideological, and that's, to be fair, it's incorrect. So shame politics I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a fan of like, don't associate quote unquote with this person, because this and this and that. I'm actually not a big fan of that. I think we overdo that. And I think that comes from I think it comes from a principled position of I can't associate myself with X person because of this. We want to shame, but what happens is there's a negative going on, is we want to shame these people into believing something. I think we also, again, we are Western liberals. We have egos inflated beyond belief. We also think that our beliefs have like a huge impact on the world around us. They're not really that big. Not really. I mean, they certainly have some sway. But that are sort of ideas, not really, guys. Like you are far less important. You have far less influence than what you think. And that's scary to a lot of people. I think that's very scary to a ton of people. But not really. I think we just have to change the scope in which we approach influence or communicating with people. Debate and political discussion, as we have historically, I think doesn't work too well. I think there are better ways to do it, and it doesn't go by shaming people in the correct political beliefs, I think. The U.S. has not had a leftist movement since the 60s. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I would consider like, Occupy Wall Street. We've had plenty of like leftist movements. It's not like, the left is dead, quote unquote, or anything like that, but I think that we should probably come to a recognition that it's not about constructs such as like left and right. I think the best thing that we can probably do is maintain some good, maintain a level head, be educated, learn, be a good person, create stuff, do things that make you a more joyful person, do things that give you more meaning, and build relationships with people. And from there, we can have discussions, right? We ignore the relationship first, though. And we try to have discussions around politics without a relationship, without any connection, and that just doesn't work, I don't think. It really doesn't, guys. The goal, yeah. The goal is relationship. The goal is an actual understanding of connection. Yeah. Start from compassion for the people you talk to. Exactly. I think that's it. That really is it. And understand that your influence isn't as wide as you think it is. You're not, and also you don't end up doing what you think you're doing. The best way to discuss politics is via the chat versus version template. Oh yeah, that's exactly it. Hell yeah. That'll do it, dude. Oh, right. Oh. Was Occupy forgotten, or was it just not memorable in the end? I find Occupy, you know, I think it might be a little bit forgotten, but I don't think I think its impact was pretty big, guys. I don't think someone like Bernie Sanders would have been as popular if Occupy Wall Street never happened. I really don't. Yeah, but being sincere and compassionate is icky pooey. You're right. I made a tweet, guys. I made a tweet the other day. Um, about getting really irritated. I get kind of irritated with it, and I know there's a lot of very good, cool people who sort of they like the artistic flair of it. They feel confident in this sort of aesthetic, and totally cool. All the power to you if you do. I get really irritated with the unbothered dirtbag leftist who like smokes cigs. I shop at thrift stores. I don't have a lot of money. I'm a working class person. Even though I come from a suburb and my parents make like 100K a year. Yeah, I have, I go to dive bars in the city. I live in the city. I smoke cigs. It's this unbothered cool guy persona that a lot of leftists have, and it's really disingenuous, right? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? You guys know what the fuck I'm talking about. Those Twitter accounts where their pictures are of them with like some cigarette in their mouth, and they're like, like I've been through the ringer a little bit. I'm a working class individual. And to be fair, if you like that thing, all the power to you. I don't want to, there's plenty of really good, cool people who sort of rock that thing, and that's cool. That's totally fine. But there is a disingenuous tone. There's a disingenuous tone to that, and the tone is that I'm unbothered. That that stuff, that shit unbothered, that stuff beyond me, man. I just, I live, I just do stuff. Yeah, trying for it's like a Neo-Camus aesthetic. And dirtbag is just a social media identity category. It's harmless, but it isn't praxis. Yeah, sure. Well, I think that if anything, it's like, I don't necessarily think it's harmless. I don't. Not to say that like everything has some sort of harm, right? Like we could but I think that what happens is it's a disingenuous sort of thing that it's kind of pretty ideological too. It's like look, I'm unbothered. I can't be bothered to care about that. I don't care. It's just kind of cringe. It's disingenuous. Yeah, dude, Victor brings to mind that Virgil, Texas dude. Oh my fucking God. He is the living carnation. Dude, the living definition of that. Unbothered. Chomsky, I had to put anarchist in his place. It's exactly it. It's so fucking corny and stupid. It's just so dumb. It's so stupid. And it's really, it shows that a lot of people are very, very insecure. But nonetheless, I don't like that. That's something I really don't. And there's a lot of cool people who totally the I don't care about thing that doesn't apply to them. But there's a lot of people where that aesthetic gives them that sort of like powerful feeling. But it's a very disingenuous thing. It's very inhuman, and I don't like it. Virgil is insufferable, but Matt Christman's cool. I like Matt Christman. Matt Christman I think Matt Christman strikes me as a dude who wants to stay above stuff like that. Like he understands sort of the idea past that. Virgil seems like someone who would not seems like, he does. He leans into the sort of, yeah, it's weird and pretentious, subtly elitist while claiming to be against elitism. Absolutely, that's exactly it. Exactly. So I think being a good human is being compassionate, being open to people. Listen, being compassionate. Yeah, Matt is very earnest, which is inherently not dirtbag. Exactly. I think you're right. I'm not a big fan of the whole melancholic, like, not trying really hard not to look like, I got to be a little bit cool and shit. And that's my aesthetic. If anything, you're just indicating that you're fucking miserable. You're indicating that, look, like, in a way, Zizek talks about the dialectic of violence. People who are weak are very violent people. And a lot of the ways people who sort of act unbothered, they're bothered a lot. And Chrisman's cool. I like Matt Chrisman a lot. And it kind of surprises me because a lot of the Chapo Trap House people, fans, and it's hard to categorize Chapo Trap House fans, to be fair. I can't put them in one. They're so huge, guys. There's so many people who enjoy Chapo that I could never put a central aesthetic. Nonetheless, a lot of online fans of Chapo Trap House have that sort of thing, that dirtbag sort of aesthetic, and they are like this douchey sort of, yeah. I definitely resent his last name being from Texas since I'm actually from there. No, I think that Virgil Texas can be kind of a douche, and he's indicative of that kind of, and it's on purpose, right? I think that maybe, I don't know a lot about Virgil Texas. I've just, the little bit that I've seen, he's kind of really unnecessarily douchey, and he's a very good example of that dirtbag leftist thing that smokes cigs, unbothered, and that's just, it's not real, it's fake. Is it a made up last name? Yeah, I don't know. Chapo, yeah, Trap House is just entertainment and not a real political project. Well, that's good, because I think there's a lot of guys. I think this is the other thing. I think there are more people who actually look at like podcasts such as Chapo Trap House as a sort of political enlightenment project than anything, and they may not mean to, right? There's a lot of unconscious stuff that goes on there, right? They know that it's like, oh, we're just bullshitting and it's fun to listen to. Fair enough, totally fair. But I think sometimes that they lean into it a little bit and they don't realize it. I do notice that. But yeah, I do get, I think the goal, the whole point in this, the goal is to be compassionate. The goal is to be nice to people, guys. The goal is to be a fucking human being. The dirtbag leftist smoke cig aesthetic is a play at a sort of unbothered, hardened, in my mind, inhuman sort of thing. It's not people, we're human beings, man. Enjoy life a little bit, if you can. It's hard to sometimes, I get it. Because it's ironic to be a Marxist and have last name associated with a deep Southern conservatism. Well, guys, I think I'm probably going to leave it here. So, I guess I will, I guess I'll probably leave it here. I'm going to keep it a little bit short. We're at the hour mark. I like doing about an hour stream or so. I would stream longer. I've been having a good time. I kind of have a busy day today, so me and my girlfriend are about to go on vacation. I got to get my car. It's a bit of a drive. I got to get my car ready. I had to get my oil change and do a bunch of stuff. My check engine light's on. I don't know why that's on, so I need to get that checked before I go drive hours away and whatever. But I enjoy having you guys here. I have a busy day today, so I'll be gone for a little bit. So, guys, again, I've been talking about this. Briar Buchalter. So I actually live in Kansas City, guys. I'm going to St. Louis. St. Louis is just like across the state. We're just me and my, did I say girlfriend? It's actually my fiance now. I get confused. Yeah, I forget. Me and my fiance are actually going with her family to St. Louis, just like a little mini vacation. I gotta say, I've been to St. Louis so many times, guys. Kansas City really is a better city than St. Louis. St. Louis is like cool, and they have different things than from KC. Kansas City is genuinely a cool city, and I'm not saying that because I fucking live here. I'm really not. Kansas City is one of those rare Midwestern cities that are very, very cool. If you guys ever have the opportunity to come to KC, really, really do. Kansas City also gets this rap as being like some dangerous city. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I don't know why. it's really, guys, I've been all over the city. I've been to the east side of Kansas City that's supposedly very, very dangerous, and it can be dangerous. It can be. Get don't get me wrong, but it's I've been to places that have worse sections of a city than Kansas City. Much, much worse. LA in my mind has got to be a much more dangerous city. It has to be than like Kansas City. And Kansas City is like supposedly it's not. It's not a dangerous place. Very good if you guys come to KC, go eat barbecue. And if any of you, again, come to Kansas City and you guys ever want to get together, let me know. We'll go out sometime. We'll go get drinks. I say that. I hope that's not a dangerous thing to say online. I'm a small enough channel. I trust you guys. So it's a cool place. It really is. But we're going to St. Louis, and I got to be real, guys. I'm not a big fan I've been to St. Louis so many times. I'm not a big fan. I would like to go to. So I haven't ever been to Des Moines, Iowa. Des Moines is like the biggest city in Iowa, guys. And a lot of people say Des Moines quite cool, and I kind of believe it. There's always those small cities, those cities that are just like in these smaller places, like Muggerfugger, you said Lincoln, Nebraska. I find Omaha's a kind of a cool place to go to. I've been to Omaha once. I trust you guys, famous last words. I trust you right now. I'm small enough. I'm below 20k subs, so listen, my trust is a little bit warranted. But yeah. Anyway, so I'm probably gonna head out of here. I got a lot of stuff to do, but thank you guys so much. I was gonna tell you again, next week, guys, is the official day Epoch Philosophy is full time. I'm doing this full time. Ooh, it's gonna be it's gonna be hard, but I think I can do it. I think I can. I'm gonna focus on this full time, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm still technically in sort of like a break mode. I just finished with school. I just graduated, taking like a week off to do some streams, hang out. And then next week is go time, and I'm gonna I can dedicate a lot more time to this channel, and I'm looking forward to it. So it's all thanks to you guys. Victor, when this pandemic is over, come visit Toronto, buddy. Hell yeah, I would love to come to Toronto sometime. I've never been to Canada. I would absolutely love to. That is a very big possibility in the future. So I will see you guys later. Again, as always, guys, if you want to see this, if you like my videos, stuff like that, consider pledging a couple bucks on Patreon. It really helps keep all of this alive. Hopefully, I can offer you guys some perks. I have, exclusive content, early access to all videos. You can vote on future videos. I always have an open door policy on Patreon. If you guys ever pledge any tier, you can always message me, talk to me. Try to give back as much as I can, but it's pretty, definitely super important for this channel survival. So if you guys enjoy this, consider it, if you can, of course. Other than that, feel free to bookmark our Amazon link. It's totally free to you guys if you guys use Amazon. If you don't use it. Again, I always say that if you guys don't use Amazon for ethical reasons, I think you are a very noble person, and that is great. But for you guys who do, and you want to help our channel survive, take away a little bit of money, they gotta pay me. Consider bookmarking it and just using it on all your purchases. Get a small little percentage, so helps. So yeah, I will see you guys later. Appreciate all you guys being here. You guys all rule. You guys make my life really a much more interesting. Make my life a lot more interesting, I gotta say, and I'm thankful for it. So I will see you guys later.